This is such a funny film. I really enjoyed watching it thoroughly. Um, Katie, were you and Delaney always in mind to play these title roles of yourselves, or these heightened versions of yourselves?
I mean, it was definitely my dream that we would both play ourselves. I've acted a little bit in the past, so I felt maybe a touch more confident. Delaney was on the fence because she's also directing, so it's like a massive, massive undertaking. But I really, really wanted her to do it, because I mean, it just doesn't get more real than us. So I'm really happy that she went along and did it. Delaney, I mean, you can speak to what it was like doing both. It was no small feat.
No, I was hesitant first because I knew it was going to be incredibly challenging. But I think what we wanted with this movie was to create something super authentic and real. And in the end, the decision was, I think just having had a history and having been best friends since we were 10 years old, like that was as real as it was going to get. And I think I wanted to just sort of have that on-screen chemistry with someone and have that connection be the center of the movie and be the center of the journey for the audience as well. So I am happy I did it. It was incredibly difficult, but in the end, I think it was the best thing for the story. So I'm very happy that we were able to do it together and we had a lot of fun. So
We'll get to that. Delaney, how hands-on were you and Katie when it came to casting the movie?
we were pretty hands on. I mean, it was a since it was an indie, we kind of had our hands in every single pot. A lot of we asked our friends like Corey Walls, who plays the Dougie, their B&B owner, and Connor Hines, who played Charlie. Those are two of our closest friends. So we were kind of asking friends, and then Marina Golova, who is our producer, who literally produced the entire thing essentially by herself from her computer. She also did all of the casting, and she sort of I've known her since college. She's one of my closest friends, and she works with Zachary Quinto. And so we had done a couple projects with them and developed some things. And we were like, if we write this, like, would Zach be in it? And she was like, he wants to do more comedy. So if you make it a funny role, like, I'll show it to him. And he ended up like saying yes. And he worked with us to develop the character even more and make it very specific. And, he usually does more dramatic horror roles and he's so funny and we learned that from working with him. So between him and Mason, who is just like such a great actor and so funny and wonderful, and Cassie is a close friend of mine, and everyone, I mean, it was a big cast. And we all were very grateful because when we got to set, literally everyone, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe how lucky we are. Like they've brought this to life in a way that Katie and I envisioned, because we'd been sitting with the script for so long. That each person brought something special of their own, but also nailed, the specificity of the character.
Katie, was it harder for you to keep a straight face when Zachary is talking about the therapy sessions, or when Corey, as Dougie, is sort of telling you no Wi-Fi, no alcohol, also don't wear your shoes in the like the whole it would have been harder for both. I like there would have been cry tears for both of them. There's a lizard
Oh man,
and a threesome and the whole
that's a hard question. Um, oh man. I would say so, like Delaney said, Corey's one of our best friends, and he might be the funniest person I've ever met in my entire life. So I'm incredibly used to him making me break 24/7. So I mean, I certainly struggled keeping a straight face, but Zach's character, Henry, is probably my favorite character in the movie. He was my favorite character when we were writing the movie. And so the first time we ever rehearsed it, I just lit up because I was so excited that Zach I mean, Henry was in like really felt like I was meeting Henry. Like I honestly was more excited than even breaking. I was just trying, it was a struggle to not look like so happy while he was doing the character. That was probably, yeah, it was probably more difficult to just not be smiling at him.
I mean, he's going. I heard this psychological term, and she's like, where did you hear that in one of my therapy sessions? No, no, no. I read it somewhere. No, no, no. You heard it in my. No, it doesn't matter. And then he goes into like berating Delaney.
He's
What a bad
really
person.
so funny. And he has such an intensity to him that I mean he makes the character so unique because he does have that kind of like composure that makes you kind of sit back and listen to what he's saying. So that coupled with him being hilarious just made me so excited to see Henry.
Delaney, there's some sweet moments to this silly film, though, as well. The go-karts, you guys are at the beach, and you guys are genuinely having a good time and living your former lives as best friends at those moments. Was there a scene that maybe you're most proud of how it turned out?
Yeah, I mean, I think those were the, it was so fun just to be with Katie, and like we had such a fun cast and crew that like every moment, at the beach, like we were all kind of messing around and having fun, and the environment that everyone created was just like super safe and exciting. I think what was interesting is as you know, and we've talked about this, like the script was a very hard comedy when we wrote it, but it became very emotional when we got to set in certain scenes. And I think one of my favorite scenes I'm most proud of just in terms of how it turned out, and it's not a funny scene, I really think I would have chosen a funny scene, is when Katie and I fight in the car on the way back, just because I think it was one of those moments where for me it just felt super real, but then there also were some funny moments to it, which feels like when Katie and I fight, like we rarely fight, but if we do, like there's a seriousness to us, but we always come back to like a funny moment or like taking a jab. So like for me, I think personally that was my favorite scene just because as like as an actor, because it felt very real. I think my favorite like scene overall that I loved shooting just was like the stripper scene, because it had everyone in it and everyone was so funny. And so I think like from a directing standpoint and a writing standpoint, seeing that all come together was just crazy, because there was like 9 of us. It was 105 degrees. We were all in the Airbnb, and everyone, I have a terrible time not breaking, and every single person was making me laugh in their own unique way, and they just brought it all to that scene after days of work. So watching that and just getting to laugh for 12 straight hours at each person, like when Carmen Christopher, who plays Phil, like with the strippers, and even like the strippers were amazing with their line, and I was just like watching it all unfold, like so excited how the scene was coming together. So I think that is, acting wise, I loved the car scene just to be with Katie and experience something that felt so real. But I think as from a directing standpoint, the stripper scene really has me in stitches every time I watch it.
I do think that there's a genuine, maybe emotional or at least friendly connection between Katie and Charlie. Is there any sort of world where she was really taking him seriously, or was she sort of just looking for a distraction because things were so hectic with Delaney, and maybe she's got this pressure because she's just gotten engaged?
We talked about that a lot and we had different versions of how their dynamic played out. I think ultimately we wanted it to feel, although she doesn't cross the line because she loves John and, is going to be faithful, is ultimately excited to get married. We wanted her to feel single for at least a night. So she and Delaney really felt like it was just the two of them again in their own isolated world. Because he's also engaged, he seems like a safe space. Neither of them are going to do anything that they shouldn't do, but they can let their hair down a little bit and they can relate to one another, where everyone else in the group is really there. Not everyone, but most people there are really just there for fun. So I don't think there's a world in where it would have gone further than that ultimately, but we liked having him there as a little bit of a temptation. You're kind of worried about what might happen. And you start to see Katie as an individual versus as an engaged person.
Delaney, this movie has made its way to Tribeca. What does that mean to you?
It's incredibly exciting, and I'm super grateful that it's included. And I really, we've shared links with this to people, but we haven't really had it in a proper like audience setting, and to have that be at Tribeca is unbelievable, and to be in New York, and I get an audience, and it's such a wonderful, creative, friendly festival that I think it's going to be great to have friends, family, and then people we don't know in the audience, and it's nerve wracking to wait for laughter, but ultimately I'm really proud of what we did, and I'm excited after the hard work to see it pay off. And I didn't, I've been editing it for quite a while, and so to be able to see a finished product is really exciting.
Katie, what do you hope it is that lingers with audiences that watch Adult Best Friends? Is it that you and Delaney both want people to realize that yes, you have to grow up at some point, but that doesn't mean you have to leave your best friends behind, and your relationships will evolve at some point. This is what grown-up friendships are like these days.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. I think if I could put a pin on it, I hope that people watch and understand that adulthood is not the death of friendship. It takes some work and you have to, pivot things around. But if the relationship is important to you, there is a space for it in your life. Delaney and I always talk about a friendship is so incredibly special in the sense that it doesn't you're only there because you want to be there. It's not a romantic relationship with kids attached. It's not a co-working relationship. It's not a sibling where, ultimately you are bound to this person. You're only there because you want to be there. And there's something so special about that. And I'm really proud that we have this movie to, kind of honor that.